Ladies and gentlemen, I have an absolute treat for you today. We've got the hover evangelist himself, Anthony, trading with Jesus, and today we're going to talk about Horizon Aircraft. What else will we talk about, guys? Anthony, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a real pleasure. Much respect. Love what you're doing.
Well, we appreciate that. And if you've been following either of the Hustle Brothers channel or Maton's channel, you would know that both of us were just in separate interviews with the man, the myth, the legend, Brandon Robinson, the people's CEO, one of our favorite people in the eVTOL sector. And today, guys, we're going to talk about everything that we've already talked about, kind of in a summary format, but also in a casual conversation. Try to build on both interviews and see if we can't pop something out that just meshes them together. And we'll get to know Brandon Robinson, Horizon Aircraft, and everything that we can possibly know about this company.
Man, I really appreciate it. So, yeah, like me personally, like being able to have the opportunity to interview Brandon, it's really interesting because like everybody has different data points and things make sense to everyone differently. Like some people hear a piece of news, they register it this way. Some people hear another piece of news because they have so much experience, they register it another way. So it's really nice talking to Brandon. It's like he breaks it down so like even like the lay person can understand it, which bodes well for them, right? Because the more people understand something, the more affinity they have towards it, the more they're going to feel an attraction to it. If you understand something, you
That's a
feel an
really good point.
attraction.
Yeah.
Right? If you do not understand something, you feel a repulsion, right? So even all the interviews he does and everything, it's just so smart. Like he's keeping people informed. He's doing things that nobody else does. Like what is it? Like 98% of microcaps like that,
Hmm.
like death spirals, nightmares, endless reverse stock
Oh, yeah,
split,
for sure. Hmm.
right? And it's like this is a unique situation. Like there's no frame of reference for this for anyone. Like a CEO that speaks to the people as he does, an organization like them that are running that lean with that much talent and wherewithal to, they could build it with their hands. You know what I'm saying? Like these dudes, like his dad and stuff, they was doing it before technology. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like you know what I mean? So it's like really mind boggling how good of a setup this is. Like, I tell everybody that I meet that it's appropriate to tell them about Hover. People in my
Yes.
local delicatessen, right? I was in my local delicatessen 2 days ago, and these guys gave me the VIP return customer discount, right? So I was
Yeah.
like, hey, and I talked to him about Hover a few months earlier. And I was like, hey, guys, because I asked them what they did with their money. I was like, you guys put your money under a mattress? What do you guys do with it? And they said, yeah, we pretty much put it under a mattress. And I saw him again, and I was like, hey, I wrote the ticker symbol down for him. And I gave
Mhm.
it to him. And I was like, you guys need to check this out. Like, it's at a good spot to get some? And then the one guy behind the counter, the younger guy, he was like, what are you, the Wolf of Wall Street? And then I was like, all right, he said that. And I was like, no, I'm the shepherd of Wall Street.
The
That's what I
Shepherd
told
of
him.
Wall Street. I love it.
I told him. That's what I told him. I told him I was shepherd of Wall Street. He was cracking up. But
That's
I thought you
awesome.
might like that little anecdote.
The Shepherd of Wall Street, where we don't just bring you into a pump and dump, we bring you into the corral and make you part of the family. And man, I love that. Another thing about Brandon that I just absolutely loved is, and I don't know specifically about y'all, but he actually reached out to us, and I'm sure he did with y'all too. And he was my first CEO I've ever spoken to, and because I'm a relatively new channel, and just him reaching out to us was like, dude, this is crazy. I'm talking to a CEO right now. And then he goes on to say at the towards the end of our interview, everything he does is not only for his shareholders but for his family. And he clarified, obviously he has his real family, but his co-workers are part of his family, and each of the co-workers are paid also in hover stock. And so they're some of the biggest shareholders, and I don't know the exact percentage of the employees own of Hoverstock, but it's got to be pretty large considering how he specifically mentioned his coworkers, his employees. He called them coworkers, by the way, not just employees. He calls them coworkers, and he's the boss. But that just really stuck with me in a way that I really appreciated. And this, if there's any stock to be the shepherd for, it would definitely be Horizon Aircraft.
Yeah, for sure. If this was a game show, I would do the phone a friend with death smiles because he definitely knows the answer to that question. Guaranteed.
I'm sure he
Guaranteed.
does.
Yeah.
I've only talked to him one time, and you can tell he's actually a genius. But, anyways, talking about y'all's interview, as far as what Brandon said, what was the most important thing that he said in y'all's interview?
Ooh, most important.
Yeah, most
Wow.
important, not
Okay.
coolest, but most important. What's going to drive this stock back to all-time highs?
I really liked Yeah, I really liked how he communicated the sales,
Okay.
right? Because once again, people only know things by their frame of reference, right? These people that are investing in the eVTOL sector the last couple years, were they investing in other airplane companies years ago? Probably not. So they might
Probably
not
not. I
know,
wouldn't.
right? They probably not. So they probably don't know how all the ins and outs work and stuff like that. And people get antsy. You know what I'm saying? Like one thing I said to Brandon was like off camera. I was like, from the retail investor perspective, this is like a year long preseason. Is what I said to him from the
Yeah.
retail perspective. We get a little bit of data. They got that draft pick. You know what I'm saying? They got a new partnership. Coca Cola is in the vending machines now. You know what I mean? Of the stadium. Like we get little pieces of data, but like the way things are now, legally, there's only so many things they can say and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So it's like people get antsy, right? And they want the future now. Like time is very interesting. Time is very anxiety driven for people, right? Like when you're in a rush, you're like you're in a rush to work. You're like, I need to collapse time. I need to collapse time. Time is very like woo woo woo, right? So it's like people are like, when are we gonna get the sales? But like I love the way he said it. It's like, and I was actually surprised we never asked him this before. I was surprised no one ever asked him and got such a clear answer from him. But it's like, and I was talking to Matan about this, and I was like, if I was going to buy a car, I wouldn't go to the dealership and look at a picture and give him 50 grand. I'd want to test drive the thing. I'd want to see the thing. Like, we're
Yeah.
so bullish on it. We've done all our research and stuff, and we're like, let's go. Like, let's go, Canada. Let's go. Let's go, Lockheed Martin. Let's go. But like, let's look at this logically. The one phrase he said, I'm going to try and paraphrase it. He said, let's not try to break the tradition. This isn't how he said it, but he was like, the way we're going to do the sales is we're not going to break the tried and traditional way to do it. Like there's a reason why it's done that way. And in aerospace, it's like, yeah, you build the thing, you fly it, show people that it works. And then, like he said, then we could potentially have the 10, 20, 50 available slots for people to put skin in the game. And
You kind
then,
of forgot about that.
non-refundable, 1% down, 10% down, something like that. And then like maybe people knew that. Maybe some of these guys with bachelor degrees in business and aerospace, maybe Mark Berry knew that. You know what I mean? But I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Like I'm just a regular guy. You know what I mean? Like Hover's the only company I own stock in. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm simple. I'm like I want to be like a real investor. I want to see a good company, and I just want to. I'm with that. You know what I mean? I don't got bandwidth for hopping in, hopping out. Just like Desmile says, when you swing a stock, you got to be right twice. You got to
Right.
time the top perfectly, and you got to time the bottom perfectly for your re-entry. That's a gamble, right? So I'm like, I ain't got the bandwidth for that. I like Horizon. I got my personal philosophy on why it was overlooked in the beginning and these type of things. But I really liked that answer because in Philosophy Salt in the Reddit, he did that nice little timeline, and he said he kind of broke it down like milestones to look for. Now that we got this information from Brandon, he made a nice little template of like things to look out for, the correct sequence. And it's great because like it takes the mystery out of things. People can predict better. They feel more comfortable, and it's like I felt pretty comfortable in Horizon before. You
Right.
see? You see? So now I feel more comfortable, which is kind of mind-boggling in itself. But I just really feel, just like Brandon said, our original thing. What's the biggest misconception? We're too intertwined into other programs. It's like they are their own thing. Even the microcap programs, too intertwined into traditional microcap programs. Like they're just too intertwined into other things because it's just they're that unique. They are that good. Just like Desmile says, he's a golden dude, and Horizon is the golden goose. That's a Desmiles quote right there.
Wow.
Fire,
That's
Desmiles,
amazing.
genius, genius. Follow Canso, follow Desmiles, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the most important thing, he mentioned the car salesman aspect. You don't buy a car without driving it first. That would be very dumb. So you also got to apply this to the testing timelines as well. Let's say, for instance, in our interview, he said if the actual full scale prototype was delayed, it would be delayed by one a quarter, maybe two. And to me, that's good news as an investor because the first thing that puts in my mind, okay, so he's taking his freaking time. He's not in a rush. He's not hurting for cash. He is focused on safety, first of all, which is the most important thing in this sector, because if there is something wrong with safety, this whole sector's out of the window. That's not an understatement either. Secondly, and I've said this 1,000 times, I feel like aviation is not building birdhouses. If it was building birdhouses, we would have been done in 2013 with the eVTOL sector. But this is a meticulously slow process, especially the certification side. But the testing process just in itself, you've got to get that perfect or you're done.
Sure.
And that's what I love about Brandon.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny too, like nothing caps out. Like hitting the maximum is impossible. There's always a little bit better. There's always a little bit better, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like as they make good progress, it's like confidence even higher, right? Like as you hear Brandon, you know, talk his truth, it's like just it's kind of astonishing, right? Like, you know, what was the thing? $30 for some eggs in northern Canada.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like $30 for some eggs, northern Canada. He said that the government gave everybody like a stimulus, like $100. I don't know if it's a month or a year. I have no idea. But he just said $100 is not going to do much. And you know, and some governments are like that. You know, they'll spread it thin to the people. You know, I don't know. Maybe some European countries they solidify and give larger bulks of money to organizations that can actually help people. But anyway, this is what he said, and they're giving small amounts of money to the people, and it's like, if you gave Horizon $50 million, they could accelerate the program, get these medicines to these people and stuff like that. And it's like,
that's a good point.
You know, like the goal is a noble goal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I forget who said it. I read it somewhere today. Somebody said I think it was Philosophy Salt again. You know what I mean? It's like I read this stuff and I know the quotes from like Philosophy Salt on Reddit. He said. No, it was in the Discord. He said most CEOs, they just want to get money. You know what I mean? And it's like, this kind of ties into why I even think Brandon even messes with us, right? Like, if you look at a parent, they love talking about their kid. You know what I'm saying? Their pride and joy. You know what I mean? I'm getting my hair cut. You know, ask me about my son's football game. You know what I mean? It's like, we talk to Brandon, you know, like the mainstream media, he just talks and they acknowledge him, or maybe like they'll ask him straight questions. But like with us, we actually ask him stuff that might, like, he finds, like a game. Like, you want the game to be intriguing. You want the game to be, it's interesting. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, we ask him stuff. He enjoys talking to us because he's talking about his baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's talking about his pride and joy. You know what I mean? Grandfather, Grim Reapers, dad, doing all that stuff with the electronics and the airplanes he was doing. And this whole thing's like, this is like what they're known for. You know what I mean? Like, this is the real deal. So, like, I was looking at that and I was like, I just have like a newfound appreciation for the whole thing, and you know what I mean. He's not like that. You know what I mean? He's like the opposite of like a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I could talk all day. Anybody watching this knows this. You know what I mean? They know this.
Easily a 12-hour video if we wanted it to be easy. But
yeah,
another cool thing about Brandon, when you just talk to him, you just learn so much about the guy himself too. Like, he was telling us about how his grandfather, and his dad would literally build an airplane from scratch when he was a kid. They let him fly the airplane, you know, with them in his lap, or with him in his dad's lap, and everything. But he was flying airplanes. What was he, like 3 years old? Is that what he said? I think
I believe so. I believe so. Yeah,
3 years old, and then he becomes a fighter pilot, and then next thing you know, he's running an airplane company. But I mean, the guy is just, first off, he's got a resume longer than anything. He knows everything about what he's doing. He's probably if he's not the smartest, he is one of the smartest guys in the whole eVTOL set. And he's just waiting on that full-scale model. And once that full-scale model gets here, I expect every single one of us shareholders is going to be very happy.
Oh, totally. Listening to you talk, I just realized something.
Okay.
You know those soccer players that have been playing since the day they were born, and like they can hit the bar on the goal from like really far away, over and over and over, because of the muscle memory that they have from playing soccer since the day they were born, right?
Yes.
And it's interesting, in our interview with Brandon, when he was talking to Death Smile's son, he was talking about how that life-work balance thing, it's like, you know, if you're really in it, you got to be really in it. You know what I mean? You got to be almost like, obsessed with your passion to really push through. You
Yeah.
know, look, the guys that invented the light bulb, or made the first bicycle or something. They weren't doing that 2 hours a day. They were working diligently,
Constantly.
right?
Yes.
So it's interesting if you look at the soccer player, the guy that can hit the pole from halfway out, right? And it's like so grained in. It's interesting because if you look at Brandon, he's of that pedigree with the airplane, right? With the X7, right? Just that whole concept, right? So then, look at other CEOs. Sometimes other CEOs, they were working at Burger King CEO. Now they're Starbucks CEO, and they're kind of bopping around and stuff like that. And there are some catchphrases you hear a lot of times. People say, "I like the CEO of the company I'm interested in to be an engineer," and these type of things. And it seems like business is easy. Like business, you get a business degree, and it's trippy because these guys, there's certain things you can't learn with a business degree, like basic laws and things like strategy, right?
Yeah.
Like Miles. That dude's strategy concepts is crazy, right? Like this dude, he knows a lot about games and like gaming philosophy, war philosophy, stuff like that, right? And it's like those type of people are very interesting because it's like you just like Brendan says, we just do what makes sense, right? And it's like what makes sense, right? Look basic stuff, right? Like what makes sense if you're being attacked by a very large adversary and you are few, what do? You play dead, right? You play dead, right? Until they turn around and then you flank them or something like that. Like there's a few options that you have in every circumstance, right? Like if someone tells you something, right? Don't believe the first person because people have an instinct to believe the first person that tells them something. You see? But sometimes you have to check with other terminals, other people to actually get the truth. It's like there's a fire over there. That's the guy that set the fire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Times out of 10 for sure.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
there's certain things you can predict. So he says we only do what makes sense. What makes sense? Practical natural laws based off of groups that you can correlate with war games, games in general, because life is a game, right?
Yeah.
The big organism, the organization, 1,000 people, it correlates down to the single organism. So all this stuff, you can kind of look and be like, wow, like these guys are on the right path. This is looking pretty good. So I look at all that and I'm just like, if you want some credence in the program, it's like I think of like 300 like bred Spartans. You know what I'm saying? It's like Brandon is like the Spartan, of the eVTOL from birth or something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is kind of stuff I think of
I mean,
aesthetically
literally,
in my
he's
mind.
been doing this pretty much since birth. I agree with that completely.
Yeah, yeah,
And just the whole do what makes sense concept, you got to think about it. You've got Joby, Archer, and all these other companies that are relying 100% on battery technology that may not be fully developed yet. And Horizon's Cavride X7 actually is doing a hybrid model where they have so much more range. I actually got it pulled up here. I'm going to tell you exactly how much more range. So Joby Aviation, they've got a range of 99 miles. Horizon Aircraft's Cavride X7, 500 miles. They can fly from Washington, D.C. all the way to Portland, Maine, and still have some fuel left in the tank. That is absolutely, absolutely incredible. And it just goes back, do what makes sense. If the battery technology is not quite there yet, don't use the battery technology. And that's not a dig against Archer or Joby. I actually enjoy and am a big fan of both companies. But do what makes sense. And we asked him the question specifically, are you expecting to go to battery power if the technology gets that advanced? He said, absolutely. We would go 100% battery. We would also go 100% hydrogen. And then he brought up one that I've never heard of. We could go ammonia. And I was like, well, ammonia, how does that work? So I asked him after the show, and it could work, guys. There's just so many avenues, but right now we've got to do what makes sense, and that right now is a hybrid aircraft.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Like, you and me and everybody else that's invested in this, we could have went AI, data centers, all kinds of
Absolutely.
stuff, right? And there are misconceptions, like, people think it's going to take forever or something like that. They feel burned from before, promises gone in the wind from time foregone or something, right? And it's like, it's funny because if you look at Horizon, like when they first started, they got that estimate of like what their cash burn would be to get to like full, you know, and Desmiles has it on the Reddit. If you go to Desmiles Reddit,
Okay, I'll do that.
you're right. He's got it there. He did the projections, and the original dude for Horizon that did their projections, it was like the burn rate doubling each year and stuff like that. So it's like 130 million or something like that. It's like the estimated total cash burn to like get to like extremely milestonic pivotal point, you know. But even like they said, it could be a 200 million, 300 million, 400 million, whatever. I don't care. But it's funny because like with them having like 3C Canada on their board, having this type of prediction of what it will take to actually get there is very dialed in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these dudes, it's so crazy. Like the fact that Tom, Clean Sheet Designs before, Brandon Dett, all these guys, it's like walking across a desert when you have walked across deserts before, you know? And it's like this one guy, he made a comment, he said, I think they're too early for their own good, is what he said. I think they're too early for their own good. And it's interesting because if he thinks they're too early for their own good, and I understand what he's saying when he thinks they're too early for their own good, I guarantee you that they know that also. In whatever frame of reference he's talking about, they're already prepared for that. You know what I mean? Because what did Brandon say when that IPO Edge guy interviewed him, right? He was like, what? We want you to do everything, but what upcoming things do retail and investors have to look forward to? And then Brandon's answer was this. He said, if people have been doing their homework, they will know that we won a prestigious AFWorks competition for our X5. And, you know, obviously, you know, with that type of capability, you know, a company like Lockheed Martin or North Grump or whatever would be interested in this type of technology. And then he said, of course, we have our X7, and that's going to change the game when it comes out. You know, medevac, cargo, etc. And I always thought it was interesting that he said that first, but like, and he's always smiled, right? Like, wouldn't it be really cool for a company like ours to get some early revenue? And it's like, dude, like, just like he said, it works. The fan and wing technology works. When I figured we have developed very good technology that we are very keen on identifying the individuals that would benefit from this, right? And it's like, if you look at all that stuff, there's so much stuff like drone companies, you know, they want to, they could just use the tech already, you know what I mean? And we don't know about it, right? Because it's government stuff, right? We're gonna wake up one morning, you know, it's gonna be some random Thursday. We're gonna wake up and then it's just like boom, like $40 million, boom, you know, Horizon Aircraft.
Exactly.
You know, like that's such the cool thing about this, bro, is that like we just need that one milestone. Everybody that's in right now, opinion, golden, right? You know what I mean? $20 million, $2.17 from that institution, $2.50, 25 million from those guys. It dips a little. They're just scooping it up. They're just playing the weak hands. Let's buy it. Oh, there's some weak hands here. Let's buy it. You know what I mean? But that thing's looking awesome, bro. And it's like, you know, it's such a great setup. Like, it's like ethically good. Like, this isn't like some drug company that's like, you know, doing something shady or whatever. This ain't McDonald's, you know what I'm saying, killing people or whatever. You know, like, this is a company that's going to change the world. Like, the ability to move people is extremely profound, right? Like, World War II, Germany, what was it? Italy was decimated, and one of their first things they did was we got to get the people moving, right? So that's why a Piaggio airplane, they didn't need to make as many airplanes for the military, so they started making the bikes, the Vespa, the Piaggio bikes, you know?
I actually didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's why Piaggio Vespa, Piaggio airplane, they started building the bikes because they were like, we got to get these people moving, you know, and to get the economy going and stuff. So it's almost like you could see a natural law there. If there's a condition that's downtrending culturally, what's the solution? Get people communicating, get people moving. Then you jumpstart the economy and stuff like that, right? So it's like, and just like Josh said, the guy that works for Horizon, he said the military is really trying to be a runway independent, you know? They want to be runway independent. But it's so sick. But going back to that, it's like 3C, the guys are there. They know what to do. It's all mapped out. Brandon has stated the plan as clearly as he possibly can ethically. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing. Like, the guy's smart. See, this was trippy. Some people are smart, but have nefarious intentions, right?
Yes.
Some people are good people. Nice guys finish last type people. And they're good people, they just don't have high aptitude, right? But you occasionally find these guys that have clean hands, right? If you have clean hands, you can navigate anywhere you want. You can't be blackmailed. There's nothing that you won't talk about. You're not scared of anything. A man with clean hands is dangerous. That dude can maneuver, right? So if we got Brandon Robinson, the golden dude, right? Who else is dubbed the golden dude,
The
right?
people CEO.
Thank you. Yeah, so basically tying that all in, it's like just like Brandon gave the advice to Decimal's son, you got to work hard, read 1 hour a day, exercise 1 hour, stuff like that, but you got to work hard. And it's interesting because if you look at him, like people give people their own advice, right? When you give
Yeah.
people advice, it's the stuff you do, right? When I do the same, it's the same, right? So if you look at Brandon, that's what he does. You know what I mean? He's been, but not only like an intern, they're looking for interns that sleep a small amount and work a lot, right? You know what I mean? Something like that, right? Like that
Yeah.
degree of dedication, right? But it's interesting because he's had that degree of dedication that he speaks about from the beginning, just like you said with seeing airplanes being built and flying in them and stuff like that. So it's funny how these things, too good to be true, or it's not real, like this is a fact. You know what I mean? Like this is a fact. Like this guy, so when he says it works, it's like it works. You know what I'm saying? Like X amount, like it's pretty simple. You know what I mean? Like he said, they put a fan on, right? Boom, propped up. Boom, blow it. Check the weight. Boom, we got it. What do they got? 500 pounds, 600 pounds, 700 pounds, 800 pounds, 900 pounds. Boom, verified, right? Multiplied times 12. Easy, right? Easy. Boom, you're pushing 9,000 pounds. You're pushing 9,600 pounds. Empty Cav X7's what, 6,000 pounds? Maybe some oil, some fuel in it or something, right? So you got all that payload, right? And then, what's his name? Phil Kelly said early on, it's going to be autonomous. He said Aviation News International, Phil Kelly said the first ones will be autonomous, right? Or have the autonomous option. So then you take the bodies out of there. You're literally, what's a ton? 2,000 pounds. You're literally transporting a ton and a half of goods, essentially. You know what I mean? So it's like,
That's crazy.
and people can say things like these, but who would really be able to do it? This guy. This guy would be able to do that, right?
The guy that was literally born and raised on aviation, knows nothing else but aviation. Yeah, I think he'll be able to accomplish that, no problem at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No brainer.
And since you brought up autonomy, I gotta mention one more thing. Autonomy, not only like you said, it does lower the payload, which I never freaking thought about. That is a perfect reason to have autonomy. But on top of that, you've also got to think about the safety aspect, because people make mistakes, but AI does not make as much mistakes as people do. And that is just, I'm so glad you said that, because I've literally never thought of that, how it lowers the payload. Yeah, I think you just blew my mind because I don't know what to say. Is that crazy?
Yeah.
Maybe so. But yeah, it's just the safety aspect is, I actually have a degree in safety as far as workplaces go. So I'm absolutely obsessed with OSHA and what, I don't know what it is up in Canada, but all that safety regulation stuff, and this keeping people alive is great and all. It's probably the number one thing we need to do, but we also need to make people feel safe, because if people don't feel safe, they're not getting on a Cavride X7. They're not getting on a Archer Midnight, a Joby S4, you name it. If they don't feel safe in that aircraft, they're not getting on there. And eventually, you've got the whole Waymo thing going on, the Tesla robotaxi thing going on, Tesla's Optimus, AI is coming, and people will eventually realize how much safer AI is than your conventional pilots. And let's lower the payload and makes people feel safer at the same time. I'm all for it.
Yeah. And also, I learned this a couple months ago.
Okay.
So basically, they do everything autonomously. Like if you look at Horizon's transition flight, why did they do it the way they did it, right? Well, obviously that's 600 pounds, but you can't really put a person there. But that's probably a bad example. But they were able to do it. Like the fact that they could do it, why couldn't you do that exact same thing in something larger? That was what it was, right? So like if you look at what Horizon did, 600 pounds, they were able to do it autonomously. Everybody's seen a transition flight with the remote controls and stuff like that. Can you do the same thing with the big boy? You know what I mean? And one trippy thing about AI is like we got a lot of Waymos around here in San Francisco, right? And it's crazy that they work as good as they do. But if you really think about it, the variables for aviation, they're actually less theoretically. You don't have bicyclists coming out in front of you. You don't got people staring at their phones going out. Like the fact that nobody dies with the Waymo, aviation with AI should be simple. It's like, look at that tennis court. No one on it. Down. Load up. Let's go. Like it really is that simple. And then a lot of people say that people will be last. Hey, maybe even people flying it will be last. It'll be autonomy first, just because they talk about it, right? Yeah. Like, if anybody has never seen the Phil Kelly Aviation International News interview, it came out about 3 months ago. It's got the White Cavorite X7 on it. You can just find it on YouTube. Phil Kelly drops fire. Fire. It's amazing. Highly recommended. Anybody's never seen it, watch it. Your hover IQ will go up 7 points, guaranteed.
He is the freaking man.
The man.
I just, it was so great to talk to Brandon. And the coolest thing that I saw that I actually didn't know, and I'm sure you knew this because you actually know a lot more about Horizon than I do, being the Horizon aircraft evangelist. But you don't need any infrastructure for the Cavride X7. It can land in a field right next to, say, a medical tent, and it can be a freaking generator for the medical tent. And it can provide all the power that tent needs and then take off and go where it needs to go next. That is the coolest thing about the Cavride X7. And on top of that, for a military aspect, let's say you got a military medical tent, the Cavride X7 actually has a low thermal signature, so it makes it really, really hard for it to be detected on a thermal scanner. And on top of that, it's so freaking quiet. You can't hear it. If you didn't have a scanner, you're not going to hear the thing. And it's got all these, let's say another hurricane event happens on the level of Hurricane Katrina. The Cavride X7, which doesn't need a runway, doesn't need a vertiport, can land, pick up the survivors of the hurricane, and take them to safety. And on top of that, and I know there's so many on top of that, so that's why this company is so amazing. You've got medical transport, you've got a civilian transport, troop transport. You've got so many things that the Cavride X7 can do with this higher payload and longer range than Archer, Joby, all the other companies, and yet nobody knows about it. That's the thing. We're here talking to you. You obviously know about it because you're watching this video, and Anthony knows about it because he knows more than I do about it. But as far as the general public, they know Joby because they've flown in New York City and San Francisco and all that, but they don't know Horizon Aircraft that much. And the question is now, is that an opportunity for you as an investor? Or is this just something that's going to have another sideways year? That's for you to decide because I'm not a financial advisor.
And you know what's really crazy about that is like people don't even fathom what that means, right? Because not only do they communicate charging infrastructure independent, but it's like this thing is the charging infrastructure. So it's almost like flipped completely. It's like not only are we charging infrastructure independent, we are actually the charging infrastructure. Just that basic mathematical point alone is kind of trippy.
So, Anthony, you are like the hover mega bull. You're at least the top 5 that I know of. But every story starts somewhere. Where does your story start?
Good question. Okay. I've only been in the market for 2 years.
Okay.
Right? And when I first got in, I was just kind of observing things, just trying to learn, right? And then I saw things that I thought was astonishing. I saw things like things going from $1 to 50 and maintaining and stuff. And I thought that was magical, financially magical, right? And then I started trying to. I was looking at things, even like Palantir $7. Now look at it. Look at Tesla $2. Now look at it. So I was like, I knew it was possible. I was like, I know it is possible to find a good company. Mind you, this is my only stock, right? Horizon Aircraft is my only stock, right? So I remember this is what I realized. You want to find companies that have made progress, but find the parallel company that has not yet made the progress, but yet the demand is there to some degree, so you will see them making progress. So my first goal was to find a company that was parallel to other companies that were doing well. So I saw that Archer, Joby, all those guys, there is some want in the advanced air mobility space. So I was like, that's interesting, right? And then I was like, I want to find a good one, right? that why do people overlook stocks? It's because they're misunderstood, right?
Okay.
Some companies suck, or they're really good misunderstood companies, right? And I looked at the quantum stocks, and if you look at those quantum stocks, there was 90 cents, 88 cents. Nobody knew what they were. They thought it was dead technology, never coming.
Yeah.
It was crazy, but all these news outlets started communicating what is quantum. They made the buzz. It was crazy.
Really?
And like, right, like what is quantum? Regular computing is like basic roads. Basic roads. You just drive like this. That's basic computing. Ones and zeros, basic computing. What is quantum? Imagine a freeway overpass with 3 lanes this way and then underneath this way and then underneath this way. And you can go over the different planes in the different directions, and then that's how you get your quantum computing facility, right? That's
Okay.
like how you explain quantum computing to a 5-year-old kid, and then they understand it. But I kind of noticed that those things all kind of took off, and sure, they had their news and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, that was my first clue. I was like, people did not understand what quantum computing was. Now look at it, right? So then I looked at Horizon Aircraft, right? I looked at Horizon Aircraft, and I was like, what is unknown about this company, right? And their name, right? The Cavride X7, right? The X5 at the time, right?
Yeah.
And nobody knew Dr. Cavor, Professor Cavor, first man on the moon. He made the element cavorite. It makes things go up. You know, the Cavride X7. People didn't know that, right? Like we talked about earlier. Why does Brandon do the interviews? The more information people have, the more affinity they have towards it. The more they're attracted to it, right? The less they know about it, the more they're like, it's like a blinder, right? So just knowing that alone, like if you're trying to sell a sandwich and it's called the Fizzle Wizzle Bum Crumb or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like nobody's gonna buy it. They don't know what that is. You know what I mean? But if you call it Best Burger in Town #2, it's like, oh yeah, definitely take Best Burger in Town #2, of course, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just basic concepts, right? So I was like, okay. So then I was like, that's a misunderstood. I was like, that is a misunderstood, that people are not recognizing something here, right? And then I looked at, just like Brandon has mentioned, all the rage was the all electric, right? But as time goes on, it's like, yeah, what's practical? They did their research. They saw that there was a gap in the hybrid and stuff like that. And I have a lot of affinity for hybrid, right? Because I drove a taxi cab for 15 years and I was driving nothing but hybrids. It's awesome. You hit the brakes, you see the battery charge up. You know, you're rolling down a hill, the battery's charging up. I would do 18-hour shifts driving a hybrid, like 7 days a week. It was crazy, right? And I just built up this real, like, nostalgia or appreciation for hybrid technology doing this, right? And then I thought to myself, I would never drive a taxi cab in a Tesla. You know what I mean? So I kind of it's kind of crazy. Like, what's your thesis? My thesis was in the very beginning. What caught my eye? The team is clean. They're really smart, basic stuff, right? But I thought it was interesting that people did not understand the name, that the architecture they chose was not appreciated, yet practical in the highest possible degree, right? You know? And, you know, some other little bits and whistles, like maybe that people felt the industry was taking too long or something like that. So with that being said, I was like, you know what? I'm cool. And then I researched it, and I'm like, I like this company. And then I was, investing when they had no news. And I was like, I like this company. I'm going to invest when they have no news because this is smart. And then here we are.
That is, I enjoyed everything you just said, and you actually taught me. I actually didn't know about the Cavride X7, the whole way it was named. It was,
Oh, for real?
what was it? It was named after Cavorite, and that makes things float. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So in the book First Man on the Moon by, was it the guy that did War of the Worlds, George Wells, that guy, George H.
Orwell,
Wells?
yeah.
Yeah, that cat, yeah. So it was Professor Cavor, Covor, Professor Cavor. He made an element called cavorite, and they would put it on ships and things so they could levitate. Because if you find any of the old books, there's pictures of chairs floating around and stuff like that. So he just put it on anything, ships too, right? So then that's why they chose the Cavride X7, because that's the element that makes things levitate, right? And people didn't know that. You know what I mean?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big hover guy, and I just learned that like 5 seconds ago. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's amazing. There's so much data, bro. It's a sea of data. It's like trying to isolate one molecule of water from another molecule of water. You know what I mean? And this is even tougher because they're pre-revenue and building. You know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah.
we're lucky enough that they're as transparent as they are. You know what I mean? So it's like once you get the checks in the door and the facilities popping up, it's not necessarily like isolating a drop of water in the ocean. It's more like, I have this glass. This is 10 ounces of water. They just made $150 million in revenue. Like, let's go.
Yes, they've literally got a sea of data, and the data is also underappreciated and like not a lot of people know about it. Like I was saying earlier, everybody that knows about eVTOLs knows about Joby, and so their price is going to be a lot higher than Horizon's price. Getting in early as an investor is like the whole point of investing, is it not? I mean, yeah, you can do your swing trading like you were saying earlier, but at the end of the day, being an investor is the most successful strategy in the whole market, the long-term game. And getting in early on the long-term game, man, this is going to be amazing. Let's just say this is going to be amazing.
Amen. Yes.
So, Anthony, it's been great having you on the show. Can you tell these fine people watching this show where they can find you at?
I do YouTube stuff with Matan, so if you ever pop in, search hover stock, his will pop up, usually one of the top ones. Me, him, and Death Smiles, we cover Horizon. We do a Sunday show 80% of the weeks and stuff like that. I got a small X channel that I'm growing, and I've noticed yours has been doing very good, so hopefully I can learn some tips from the top jockey, because you're doing real good with yours.
I'm trying to. It's
Yeah.
hard sometimes, but you just got to keep grinding, keep your head down, and just put the work in, and eventually we'll all make it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm also one of the moderators on the Hoverstonk Reddit for Horizon Aircraft, And Reddit can be a weird universe, We attempt to keep it like for the people can have their opinions and stuff, but we try to keep it very good in reference to putting Horizon in a good light, but that's kind of tough sometimes on Reddit, you know what I mean? I think that's why.
Yeah, it's amazing how you take the face off of somebody and they have a faceless account and they just say whatever the heck they want. It's crazy. But
Yeah.
speaking of Reddit, this question just popped into my head literally just now. How has the Reddit community, because it is a very large community for the Horizon Aircraft part of Reddit, how has that impacted the stock?
I think it's like pure mathematics. Like
Okay.
Death Smiles did an excellent tabulation of all the institutional investors, all the Canso numbers. We did a poll on Reddit to see how many shares everybody had to get like a nice general base of like what percentage did retail own and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
And sometimes I wonder, people ask like, why does Brandon let you guys interview him? Like he likes to do it, right?
Yeah.
But these guys are smart guys. The math is obvious. Like look at people that you just know the float of a stock, you know what's available and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's kind of like, if you do the math, like when Matan does a Brandon interview, right? It has 1,000 views, let's say, right?
Okay.
And then say half of the people that watch it have zero stock, let's say, zero shares, right? And then let's say the other 500 people that, watch it, let's say they have 10,000 shares, right? Right? Well, I'm sorry, $10,000 rather. So that would be 5 million market cap. Let's say, the number's higher. So it's crazy because like if you had 5 shares in a company, would you care about watching a YouTube video about it? Maybe not, right? But if you have a large quantity, you're probably going to be interested in watching the thing. Like,
That's
so
a
if
good
you look
point.
at all, right? So if you look at all these mathematics, it's like there's the 3,000 people on Reddit. What is it? Maybe 20 million people, 20 million of the float. So it's like, it is interesting that these organisms of Reddit or YouTube or whatever, and it's not nefarious, it's not negative, it's not pumping, it's just facts. These are just facts of life, and they're inescapable, right? And any investor relations would know that. Anybody that can do math on a napkin would know this, right? But it's like it is important to keep the retail abreast of what is happening so they feel very certain in their investment. Look at anything that blasted off over a couple year period. You look at ASTS or any of these things. Retail held 20% of the float, 25% of the float, something like that, right? And they can do that if the company is smart with their cash burn and keeps it tight enough to where like retail can actually have a say. It's not like retail is 3% of the float or something like that. So it's funny that there is a formula that to the degree Horizon does well and has less cash burn is to the degree that retail actually has a say so, right? So like, sure, Brandon likes talking about his his baby. You know what I mean? Just like anyone would, you know? But also, it's smart for them. Like, imagine if Brandon ghosted us. Imagine if he never did any of these interviews. Imagine if the Reddit never existed. Imagine if Matt Chesler never won Investor Relations of the Year. Imagine all of these realities, and it's just abyss, nothing, dark ages, no news, right? At that point, the stock is very haphazard, right? Just like Brandon was saying, these guys know the math. It's like, people do nefarious things with warrants or whatever. These formulas, they know them. Simple. He could probably spew them off to you off the back of his hand. Easy. But not only is it smart for them to like do that, it's just smart. It's not nefarious, it's nothing. It's just smart. You're right? Like if I had customers, I'd call them up personally. I'd be like, hey, how you doing? How's the product? That's just good showmanship, good customer service. You know what I mean? So it's like, and he has the bandwidth to do it. You see, if he was into all these unethical things in his personal life and everything, they wouldn't be able to do any of that stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's once again, it's frame of reference, right? People look at YouTube, they look at Reddit, their frame of reference is that it sucks, it's memes, it's pumps, it's garbage, right?
Right.
Yes, 98% of the time, yes, that is a case, yes. But this is different, right? Like, everybody's long. Like, we're all long. You know what I mean? I've been in this thing, some of my, you know what I'm saying? Long. Yeah, I'm still, we're all going. You know what I mean? Next milestone, Shazam. You know what I mean? And it's like, never look back, So I find that interesting, Like, there have been people in history that have used this data for whatever. But the beautiful thing is this is not AMC. This is not some garbage. Like, these guys are moving forward, right?
Yes.
And it's like, if it's a garbage company, then the bad guys take the reins and they'll do what they want with the stock, right? Mm-hmm. But since Horizon is working and doing well, that is a defense against nefarious things happening with the stock. No matter what, bears, bulls, memes, no matter what anybody says, Horizon will keep stepping up. Yeah, maybe, just like Brandon says, very volatile sometimes. Fine. But in the grand plan, the grand scheme of things, after the S&P red days, after the scare from the taco or whatever, right? It's always going up in the end, in the grand plan, right? So if the conviction is strong, hold long.
And something else that you just brought to my mind about Brandon Robinson in our interview, he specifically said he is, of course, there's going to have to be dilution in any startup aviation company. That's a fact, okay? But he is trying his best to minimize that dilution, not only for us, the retail shareholders, whatever institutions are involved, but he specifically said, like I said earlier, his family, his co-workers, which are actually his employees, own Horizon Aircraft stock, and he does not want to dilute his family. He does not want to dilute his family. And that tells me everything that I need to know about Brandon Robinson.
Yeah.
So, Anthony, we asked this question to Brandon himself. And I just want to ask you, because I just would love your opinion on it. Let's say you are a perfect pilot. You have no issues. You're ready to fly in the Cavride X7. All you have is, besides the plane, of course, you have your cell phone and you got a set of headphones. Nobody's there with you. What's the first song that you're going to play in that cockpit?
Ooh, Cavride X7?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. Okay, I got one.
That's a hard one.
I got one.
Okay.
When Horizon came out with that video about the hot seat, and they asked all the guys that worked there what they thought was the song, a couple of them said "Thunderstruck" by AC/DC, right? Yeah. So it would only be appropriate, right? If we're going up, pop in some AC/DC and go up. So that would be, out of the billions of songs, I'd have to go with that one because it has the most sense.
Well, that song is literally, I mean, it would give me chills going. You're just going straight up in the Horizon aircraft. But I think mine, I really like the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, and I think mine would have to be Redbone specifically. It's got that funky groove. I almost use it as my walkout song on my wedding, but my wife was like, "We're not freaking doing that." But I just freaking love that song, and I could just see myself in there doing controls, bam, 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 bam. So that would be my answer. And it's also funny, you and Brandon had the same exact answer. I don't know if you meant to do that or not, but that's just freaking hilarious, dude.
Oh, wow, I didn't know. One got by me, I guess.
Yeah, one got by you, But
Yeah.
man, like I said, Anthony, it was wonderful to have you, man. And go check out Maton's channel on YouTube. Go check out Anthony's Reddit at Hover Stonk, but Stonk, the O is a 0. That's Anthony. And follow him on X too. I'll have everything linked in the description below. But thank y'all for watching. And don't forget, we're tracking this together. So let's go get it.